Nice one. All right, everybody. The Shock Pod is alive.
It's alive! Enter the Shock Pod at your own risk.
Presented by HorrorShock Media. This is a horror punk and shock rock podcast hosted by Reverend Chad Well.
We're here for another Shock Pod. Today, joined by one musician that I know very, very well because they're related to me. They are my spawn. And the other one I am getting to know really more deeply today. I am a big fan of his music. From Spellgrinder from California, Mr. Spooky von Amduat.
Thank you.
Yes, and my daughter, Presley Jane P.J. Wells from the Creepy Crawlers and the Lollipop Kids.
Hello, hello.
So, Spooky, I am so happy that you reached out. You've seen a couple of the podcasts and you knew that you could bring something of value to us, so you reached out to me. I was gonna reach out to you anyway, so I'm super happy you're here. Spellgrinder is an awesome band. Can you give me a little tiny bit of background, and then we'll talk about where you're at now and where we're headed?
Yeah. Well, Spellgrinder is a horror-themed heavy metal band. We have a lot of other secret ingredients that make our stuff a little less inbred than most genre bands. You
Yes.
got it. You got to mix up the gene pool, and it's a good thing to do. And Spellgrinder, our family tree forks a little bit. We started being a band in like 2020 because it was what I needed to be doing. I needed to be having a band that sounded and looked and hit just like Spellgrinder does, because in my mind, we're unique.
100%.
But like we do hit like a lot of other things. A lot of things were accidental. We can get into that later because they're fun accidents,
Sure.
Shit that like people are like, yo, you sound like Wasp. I was like, I don't listen to Wasp, but you know what? They're not wrong.
But Wasp listened to Alice Cooper and Elvis and ended up in the same ballpark as you guys.
Yeah.
That's a thing that I notice happening that's so interesting is a lot of us are going for something entirely other, and we end up somewhere that's like that lands us in legendary leagues. You know what I mean? Like that's high praise, whether you listen to that band or not. The impact their band like that had in the Satanic Panic era.
Yeah, sometimes it's embarrassing because it's like, well, doy, because I like glam rock, right? But then like the stuff that's considered glam metal, like when I was growing up, so I think there's like a 10-year age gap between us, Chad.
Is there?
And,
Should we discuss our ages? Presley,
Well,
do you want to say your age first?
Yeah.
I don't want to tie the interview to today because we're going to get miles out of this, right?
Sure. Yeah,
Right now, I'm
this should
42.
be evergreen. So, were you born in what decade were you born in?
I was born in 82.
Okay, yeah. There's just under 10-year age difference.
Yeah, like when I was coming into shit, it was like grunge was big, but it was also like it was right that the third coming of punk.
Yeah.
And that was.
So you're exactly the age. You're between the. I have two younger brothers. One of them was in the Jackalopes with me back in the day, named J.J. Thunder, and the other one was in several different cool bands. Some of them had horror ties. Most of them had glam rock ties. But what's interesting is your stuff. Now I get exactly where you're coming from, because my brothers, via the shit that was new when you came of age, you found Iggy and the Stooges still, you found the Cramps still, you found whatever, even though the bigger bands were like freaking Days of the New and crap like that. You know what I mean? Like you were finding the stuff that everybody was coming out going, these were our influences or whatever. But nothing like that was happening anymore. So you get the like, I need to make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, there was shit happening still in a way,
Sure.
It was exciting. Like,
did you come
when I
up
was
playing in
high
bands
school,
back then and stuff? Like, when did you start playing in bands?
I started playing in bands probably like 1996.
Okay.
When I first started playing in bands, and I had had a punk band called the Antisocials.
Okay.
We started off, we were like hella like Social D Rancid, but
Yep.
then one night I just like I like the Ramones more than anything. And one night I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't want to do this. I want to be in a Ramones like band. I was like listening to like the Queers and Screeching Weasel, and like I just wanted to be hitting like the Ramones. Like
Absolutely.
I didn't want to be acting tough. I wanted to be like acting like a high functioning retard, you know? Like
Absolutely.
the best
100%.
part of punk, you know? And so I did. And one night I just rewrote all the songs, the Antisocials, you know? And now I have no idea what I was talking about.
Oh, just talking about when you started. What if you played in bands back then and
Yeah,
stuff?
I did that, but then you know, when I was like around 17, because I'm watching a lot of these punk documentaries. Now,
Yeah.
by the time I was 17, I had seen the Cramps, you know?
Right.
Like I saw the Cramps in like 97.
Yeah.
Saw Lux. That was a rough one because I was there with my two little sisters, and I think it was their first time seeing like an adult man penis
Right.
person. And it's like, oh, don't little Gathel, you know, it was gnar. Like it was broad daylight. We had really good position in the crowd, and then he tore his like PJ pants into shorts too short, and it was an anatomy lesson for my little sisters.
Oh my goodness.
Stuff happens. That was the 90s, baby. That's the 90s, you know. It was a rough time.
Oh yeah, it was definitely an entirely different world. I mean, we sound old talking that way, I'm sure. Like back in my day we had to walk uphill and blah blah blah, but like it was an entirely different world. It was you know, sometimes a far better world and a lot of times a far worse world than it is now. Like there was like it was like gang warfare in the 90s
Yeah.
at shows at times, but
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
for better or worse, there was not a lot of evidence, you know. Like
Yeah,
we
well, that's
worried about
had we all had phones in our pocket instead of just our drummers having pagers because they were all drug dealers.
yeah.
The
Well, I grew out of like the doing the punk rock backyard party scene, which I mean, I'm still there in a way, but like
Sure.
then I started playing, started really like peeling back just into rock and roll, American roots music, glam rock, hard rock, all the kinds of blues and American roots music, and just going. So I'm insane about music. I love music, love it,
Yeah.
and got into being like a bar musician. Then became like a hired gun, session gun, touring guy. Moved to LA. Did a lot
Did you
of like
play with anybody cool? Like, I mean, you have to have been in one of the four versions of LA Guns by now, right?
No, but you know, I'm working on them. I'm buzzing around. I have friends
Yeah.
that have multiple times. I have black hair. Like it's only a
Yeah.
matter of time.
It is. It is.
Yep.
They're gonna run through and get to your number eventually.
Yeah, I got neck tattoos. Like, you know, I'm waiting for like a couple more guys to like find Jesus, and then I'm in.
They'll they'll do a reboot of that American hardcore album. They'll need neck tattoo guys for sure, and they'll bring you in. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, like that's not my genre. I'm not neck tattoo guy, but here I am, you know.
I got one too. I got
Yeah.
one too. We're old guys with
I
neck
grew up
tattoos.
I put it off, but I loved Rancid and Social D so much as a kid, and just growing up like some
Yep.
Southern California scumbag. It's just I wanted to do it, you know, and that was
Yeah.
face weird because like it goes against everything that you know was a good choice for you.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I went into tattooing straight out of high school because I knew that was the only other thing I could do and look the way I looked to play music. It was like deliver pizza for the rest of my life or go ahead and become a tattoo artist.
I'm like, I got some fake skin. I'm like working on learning how to do it now.
All right.
I'm about to ruin my thighs.
Dude, do it. Yeah. Presley and I both are tattooers. That's our day job. We both have some nice janky self-inflicted tattoos from the learning phase, and Yeah. That's part of the process. Well, once you're running and we'll get you out on the road and you can come here and do a guest spot. That's one of the coolest things. And Presley can attest to this. Like
Yeah.
I've gotten so many opportunities in the music scene because of being the tattoo guy. It's one thing to be really talented and have a cool band and you look right. Like those are all like, you should have that. That's like a given. But then if you can be like, I tattoo well, then suddenly that's how the Jackalopes, we started opening for Electric Frankenstein and like all those other bands, because they were like, well, you'll tattoo us for free. And I'm like, yeah, you're on
Yes.
Victory Records. Let's go, guys, So,
Well,
but Presley's recently started tattooing bands that she's
Yeah.
a fan of and is becoming friends with.
Yeah. There's Skating Polly. I've gotten to tattoo Peyton from Skating Polly twice now. And that's like, I've been a fan of them for years. So it was really cool and like a big honor to me to get to tattoo her. And like, yeah, she's very, very nice and I appreciate her. When we put out the new Lollipop Kids song, I sent it to her and she listened to it and told me it was good and it was very nice and I appreciated that. But like that's a great like, it's not my intention, but it's a great networking, like it's a great opportunity.
I think I love the younger people are a little more wholesomely hearted, like being a Gen Xer like I am. Like I think everything's a little bit sociopathic. Like I see everything as like, I want to do good for people. I want to treat people well. I want to have people have a good opinion of me, but like I'm 100% tattooing you to ride your coattails. I will do your flyer to ride your coattails. I'll do your album cover to ride your coattails. All of those things. But that's how it was done. That's how it was always done.
Yeah,
That's how scenes are built.
Yeah, you want to know why I'm here? To talk about a record. Like the record that is out on HorrorShock.
100%.
Like it's all P.T. Barnum. Like you guys are like doing the right thing. You're tattoo artists, like, so everyone, I think, to a certain degree suffers from like imposter syndrome. We're like, well,
Sure.
how come we're not blah, blah, blah? Why am I not this? It's just like, oh, wait, I'm giving tattoos and I'm in a band and I'm talking to cool people all the fucking time.
Yep.
Yeah.
We are that.
At a certain point, you realize, oh shit, I'm actually cool. The people that I thought was cool, I'm actually that guy. I'm fucking cool. And so, yeah, you guys are just like legit. Everyone, I mean, the people that make it, you got to be having a job because it's not cute.
Yeah. 100%.
Rock and roll is time consuming. It's weird hours. It's hard on the furniture and you need to be able to support yourself, and having an adjacent, relevant career is great. Just even having a career is great. Like I'm not, what I make most of my money off of is not rock and roll at all.
Right.
But I'm happy to be able to do it because then I get to be extra rock and roll.
Absolutely. I think that's the path to, for some musicians, there was the illusion for a long time that if you were magical in your garage, that some fat guy in a car would hear you and, give you the keys to the kingdom. But like, even those things that looked like that back then were not that, and the real truth was the people that succeeded and that kept going were the people that put in work and hustled and did whatever they needed to do. And we got to do, Elvis is driving a truck on the way up. We don't know what he would have been doing on the way down because there wasn't a way down for him. But like, we see people like the hair metal scene. Janie Lane from Warrant was washing dishes in Cleveland when he overdosed, like that's like, you think that guy's, when you're a kid and you see a band like Warrant on TV, not that I ever liked Warrant. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but it's like, that's one that you go like, that's a polished band. Those guys got enough millions when they happened that there's no way. And no, there was no millions. There was,
it's unjust. It's a hard fall from grace. We are the ones who, through propaganda, have been made to believe that, yes, what we practice in the garage, fucking, Geffen is driving by in his limo. He's like, stop. You come
Yeah.
out. They come and talk to me. They tell me, listen, you're going to be famous. You got to drop these guys. So I leave these guys, blah, blah, blah. You know, none of that shit's real. I mean, like,
Yep.
that's it's kind of real, but their bands don't actually make the money you think they make.
Nope.
Not at all.
And the fame that you think they have, it's something that it's an illusion. It's through advertising, it's through kayfabe. I love wrestling, so everything is wrestling.
Sure.
Everything is presented to you to get a certain reaction and to continue the story, the hype. The $1 Million Man wasn't as rich as we thought he was. That was his gimmick, you know? And that gimmick is great. Like rock and roll, punk rock is one of those big psyops, like
Right.
in which I got to go for it. You know, I love
Sure,
punk rock. I love rock and roll. Rock and roll is very excessive, or it can be. It's primal, but it
Yeah.
lends itself to excess.
Sure.
Because it's primal, it's attractive. Because it lends itself to excess, people want to make it faster with more notes and more chord changes and weirder lyrics, and then it turns into prog. Well, prog is great, but it doesn't sell as many records.
Mhm.
And it's not as inspiring because it's not primal. And so the record company has to be like, we got to stop putting money behind these fucking nerds. And we need to give money to these morons. and the
Oh,
morons brought rock and roll back to its 3 chords. And the morons, like, morons are what rock and roll is supposed to be. The morons is where it's at.
I so agree. Presley, wasn't it the Frank Zappa said something like the downfall of the record industry was when guys who thought they knew about music got into the job, because the guys that used to run that job knew nothing about music, and they were just like, yeah, these guys like stupid stuff, we're going to invest in stupid stuff. And then you get the Beatles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
It just has nothing to do with the music. The music is a product, and that product is like what we're told about it. Like, there's 2 different kinds of news right now, right? These 2 newses are not talking about the same stuff the same way, right? Well, that's how they talk about a band. When Skid Row came out, Skid Row comes out in 1989. For that genre of music, even though they're more rock and roll, they're more like that Guns N' Roses kind of rock and roll. They're not Poodle Rock.
Right. No.
Right. But that shit came out in 1989. That is the end of the sell-by date.
Mm-hmm.
So they did that. Then they had Slave to the Grind come out like a year later, which is all right, awesome. But already Nirvana exists at this point. This shit is already past its sell-by date. Now he goes and cheats with Christina Aguilera.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Concrete, what's the 94 album? It's really good. It's one of those like,
Oh, who, Skid Row?
Yeah.
Oh hell, what was that called?
Concrete something or I can't remember what it's called. It's
I just
like,
want to say Primal Concrete Sledge, and that's Pantera. I can't think about it. Yeah.
that's no, yeah. So it's a great album, but it's them doing grunge. But
Right.
they have every right to do grunge because it was their 3rd album. They had already taken Pantera out on tour with them.
Yep.
You know, they had been playing with Alice in Chains. They've been doing like all that stuff. So why can't they process that? It's not unnatural for them. But the industry was saying, no, you guys are played out. Even though they just got there. And they were young, they were beautiful, they had a lot of energy. They had a Econoline van. They could have been on the road for a long time, but you want to get rid of that. The industry doesn't want that to exist anymore. And that stuff is all supported by the industry. Fans support things to a certain degree, but they have to have the opportunity to, like, by the time it even gets to the fans, somebody's coughed up money out of nowhere to print CDs up.
Right.
Someone's coughed up money out of nowhere to like make sure you have a backdrop and dry ice. Like, that money comes out of somewhere.
Right.
Usually it's someone that signs a really bad short-term loan and ends up just having to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And that's actually how the music industry works. It sucks. Like, the guys that are around from like the good old days, they're paying for stuff out of their pocket.
Yeah,
Not
100%.
to say that's not real, but they're paying for it out of their pocket. It's not like Warner Brothers paying for like some band to go on. The band's paying for it themselves. So they got to make it themselves, and that's how you do it now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
I think that's how the best and only way I think to do it successfully long term would be to you become your own business. I mean, that's Alice Cooper is a perfect example where he may partner with a record label to put out a record or whatever, but like Alice Cooper Tour, Alice Cooper Enterprises, Alice Cooper Merchandising, whatever, that's Alice Cooper and his family, and they're the ones that are setting it up and tearing it down, and it's like you said, it's a PT Barnum game that they show up in their day
Yeah,
clothes and make it go, and then they put on the stuff at night and
yeah.
do the show.
And I love that. Like,
Yeah,
that's just how it is. It's just like you don't realize it until you're a little deep in, and maybe it's a good thing.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
absolutely. But I mean, I think some of us, if you're paying attention to music, the bands that I grew up on love to share that part of their story. Like Kiss, one of the coolest stories is that those guys would show up to the venue in the afternoon and set up all their own stuff, put everything together, and then go one block up the street to the limousine they rented and put their costumes on inside the limousine because it was cheaper to only drive a block. You know what I mean? And then the limousine drives them up, drops them off, and does not pick them up at the end of the night. Like they had the illusion, stall the fans outside so they see us dropped off in a limo. But the truth is that limo cost what you're going to get paid tonight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now they're fucking Kiss. So
They were a more socially responsible New York Dolls.
100%. Yeah.
Easier gimmick to sell. It's less street. It's more universal, less street, less gay.
Somehow, but
Yeah.
was it really?
Also,
As a
like,
teenage boy spending enough time with the Hotter Than Hell album cover, I could say that album cover at least is pretty gay.
yeah, I mean, yes. And Paul Stanley has one of those just like outrageous accents. Like he's a very lavish speaker, which
Yeah.
appreciate, but like there are no posers in the New York Dolls. Okay.
Right.
That was a band with no posers. There were
Right.
two posers in Kiss, and that's your nucleus, which is good business. So yeah, like a record company wants to know, why should I invest in you? How long can you operate before you go bad? It's pimp economics. Have you ever read Iceberg Slim's book?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
For sure.
pimp economics. Like, how many transactions do I get out of this hoe? And that's how a record company, that's how HorrorShock looks at Spellgrinder. They say, how many Johns can Spellgrinder take home? And
Well, hopefully it's a lot. You're
oh no, we have a huge capacity.
you're a young and attractive band still, and with lots and lots of transactions, I'm assuming. We
Yeah.
will not be leaving any money under the bed.
No. Well, yeah, we're not young, but like with filters and AI,
Yeah.
you can really get your money's worth out of
Yeah.
Spellgrinder. Like we
Well,
are a good investment. But like let's say like, I'm sending my stuff to Epitaph. Why does Epitaph want to throw money
Right.
at a guy in his 40s who's just gonna like, no, I don't want to play a Warped Tour in daylight. That's too hot. They don't want to deal with me. They want to deal with a kid that's just like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and, no history of diseases.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to worry about rent, preferably, and
100%. Yeah. I mean, a label like that is looking to either further their street credibility by hiring somebody or signing somebody that's going to increase that, or they're looking for somebody that's really a guaranteed number of units. I'm friends with some bands that are not at all related to the punk scene too, that deal in like that thing of like the label knows that they're good for 10,000 records every single time. That's not enormous sales by historical standards, but for like independent rock acts, that's like
That's
phenomenal
mind-blowing
sales
for independent.
every time, guaranteed. We put this record out 10,000 that week, you know, and that's how they keep just doing it. And they're not, you know, that this particular band doesn't have to really play shows or anything to do it. So it's kind of an interesting thing, but like, that's what they were saying is like, now they're working with that label so they don't have to play shows and invest their own money into doing it. The label pays for the recording, the label pays to put it out, whatever, all of that kind of good stuff.
That's crazy.
They have this thing, but like any other bands that are coming in that are like even just as good or better, they really have to have this like touring history and this sort of what's a portfolio of assets that comes along with you that shows that they're going to be able to at least work you to that level and make that happen, you know.
Oh, you need to be a sure shot, and basically you just got to pay to play.
Sure.
A lot of times they're just like, yeah, just sign here. We'll take your money, and now, yeah, come do it. Nothing wrong with that, you know. Like, just make it work for you. Like Spellgrinder, I just do everything myself. You know, this is the studio. This is where I record. You know, it's just chilling. Got like a drum set over here.
Yep. Same.
Skateboard, just in case you gotta like pop an ollie. That's the inspiration. Same. Is sometimes this is a black label thing. It's not like Nazi shit.
Oh, I know, dude. You don't have to. You don't got to explain this to us. No problems.
No problem.
No problems.
Yeah, there's gonna be someone just like, yo, what is that?
What's up with the big iron cross, buddy?
What's with this fucking like Orange County Choppers bullshit? Where's fucking Paul Senior? Fuck.
Like, are you guys all cool with Ozzy? Yes, then shut up. Are you cool with Lemmy? Yes, then shut up. Period.
Lemmy with an asterisk. You know, asterisk. Yeah, like
I get all the time. I'm like, we're mad about. Wait, what? We're mad about everything that Lemmy did every day.
Yeah. Well, we know that Lemmy was well-meaning.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Is okay. So here, oh yeah, we're not even going to get super deep into this conversation because this conversation will look like I'm trying to.
Why are you advocating for people behaving badly?
Right. Yeah.
What's your angle? Like, who are you defending? Are you on the Epstein list?
I got a picture of Charles Manson behind me. I'm gonna be in trouble for that from somebody. Yeah. You know, Gene. I have these guys tattooed on my hands, so I'm always getting in trouble for something that they say.
Ooh, yeah. I got a full back piece of Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder.
That's
it's important.
I know you don't, but that's hilarious. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch the fickleness and the pickiness. I'm not pro. You know, I'm definitely never pro racism. I am never pro sexism. I am never pro whatever. But like, man, look, like if you hate Christians, do you hate Johnny Cash? Do you hate Prince? You know what I mean? Like, okay, so an asterisk. You hate people that wear iron crosses. Well, is Lemmy okay? Yeah, Lemmy's okay. Okay, well, what about Glenn Danzig? How's Glenn Danzig sit with you? You know what I mean? Oh, he voted for Trump, guys. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Everybody loves Mike Tyson, and I'm making this not evergreen, but everybody loves Mike Tyson right now, and he's just a sweet, sweet little old man who was convicted for rape and served time for it and voted for Trump. So do you still love Mike Tyson? Because I still love Mike Tyson, but like, the world's out here putting all of these little, like, you can't. And I'm like, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm an edgelord at heart. I just want to do the opposite. Like I think I don't want to go onto a PC rant because I really am pretty liberal and PC at heart. I really fucking am. But like, that part of society has driven away the people like Joe Rogan is now a right-wing firebrand, but he's actually a really liberal dude.
Yeah, like censorship is fun. Like, good job, liberals. You made Republicans cool.
And I wonder sometimes though, if
way to go.
And what's interesting though is like what we do, for instance, what you do and what our band does And to a certain degree, the Lollipop Kids, I don't want to leave Presley out of this conversation, being a glam rock band in this kind of day and age, like it's all like, it's almost quaint. Like this is shit that in the 80s I had problems for. I don't want to say we would have had problems for. I was fucking there. I had problems over this very thing. And now it's quaint because it's LARPing. It's some kind of role playing. It's some kind of fakeness. And they're not really these people, even though we have, this every day, you know what I mean? Like we're that's got to be a wig, it's got to be fake.
Well,
It's a weird
like,
time to be alive for sure.
yeah, well, there's a lot of people that put it on like a costume, and there's people that are just living it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Spellgrinder is completely apolitical, though.
Yes. And our label
That
is
context,
too.
Spellgrinder doesn't talk about politics at all, because I started in 2020. And I actually do live to offend. That's another one of my favorite things about punk rock is different things to different people.
Yeah.
At its core, for me, it was an art movement, a scene with people that had no talent at all, but they were cool. And then the industry went and got its piece, like I like that. And but that's hard to sell because it wasn't very cohesive. And
Right.
so it became more of a political thing.
Right.
It became English and more
Well, yeah.
passionate, right? And then it became LA and it got a little darker and dirtier, right?
Yeah.
It went to Orange County, became a little greasier, you know what I mean? And
It
like,
became a lot scarier once it hit Orange County.
yeah. It's different thing to different people. For me, like I love the minimalism of it, the reducing rock and roll to its essentials. But then I do love that extra app that that I've gotten for it, which I love to offend people.
Well, I think that's the thing for me that, trying to sort out punk rock as a kid, it's anti-authoritarianism. Jello Biafra doesn't have the same political leanings as Exene Cervenka, but they're both punk. The Talking Heads were fucking punk. You know what I mean? Like, at least they're of the CBGB's first
They
graduating class of bands called punk.
Yeah,
They're in the first punk magazine.
that was the scene. Is just like you got the Ramones, Suicide, Talking Heads.
My point being
Bonnie rolls up. Like none of those bands should know each other.
No. But I think that's the thing is the anti-authoritarianism of none of those bands decided to sound alike. We click this scene up.
Yeah.
The bands don't start sounding alike in the scene until the 80s. Like there's all the hardcore bands in New York sound alike, all the LA punk bands. We start to be able to go, well, that's obviously a New York band. That's, that doesn't happen until the 80s or the 90s. But at the beginning, the whole thing is like, I can't, I have to produce a nice record. No, I don't want to. And then as soon as it became, you have to produce a shitty record to be punk, the Ramones bring in Phil Spector. Do you know what I mean? Like the Ramones start making some epically beautiful produced records.
Yeah. Well, for me, that's the right choice. Like,
because they weren't supposed to.
Yeah, that's the right choice. I like that punk in my mind. It benefits from health. Punk, like, what are the best punk records? To me, they're records that they really had to incubate. The Sex Pistols' one album didn't just like come out overnight. They really labored on that. A lot of work went into that to make perfect. And it's a perfect album. Yeah. The Ramones, like their demos, they sound great, but their albums are well made. Even the early, like minimal ones, they sound excellent. The Adverts. The Adverts' first album. Do you know the Adverts?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Adverts' first album is fucking insane. It sounds like Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd, if it was punk.
Right.
It's fucking insane. Now they were like, okay, let's make a really shitty second album because that's punk. Their second album fucking sucks. It's fucking garbage. And it's because they bought the propaganda that, oh, well, let's make it sound shitty because that's
Right.
punk. No, it's not.
Yeah, let's do the thing. that everybody
The
else is
best
doing.
punk had a little help, or it has a massive amount of fucking talent, like if you do have these guys that are just like high functioning idiots, like
Right.
you need to have some help
Yeah.
to get them in shape. Otherwise, like if people here are like, well, what about Crass? I fucking hate Crass. So like that, we're gonna we're not gonna be able to talk about that, because I don't like that. It hurts my ear. It hurts my head.
Right.
It's a bummer. So,
Well, but you get like that Crass is the punk equivalent of like Robert Johnson or something. This is field recording something in a stage where it's not necessarily supposed to
yeah, but no, because Robert Johnson wasn't a goddamn field recording. That was recorded in a hotel room. And if you want to talk about the
Yeah.
Lomax recordings that are in the National Library of Congress, I don't think Crash should be in the National Library of Congress because it sounds like ass. And the stuff that was
be. Yeah. I like a lot of stuff that
these
sounds
are
bad.
the
I'm not a
hot
big
takes,
I'm not a
so-
big Crass guy, but I like a lot of stuff that sounds horrible. And
I
I
just
like it
really like
because it's
Gigi.
like Gigi Allen. I fucking love Gigi Allen's early
I like
recordings.
Gigi Allen too, yes.
And
That's
it's
what I
so bad. It's so
It is.
bad.
Yeah.
But I
Like,
love it.
and he was, see, like what pisses off parents like that these days,
Oh, yeah.
and when it does, it feels contrived. Like Amel and the Sniffers kind of feels like contrived. Or no, maybe that's not the band. It's something else. Every once in a
Yeah,
while,
what's
someone's like,
the-
all right, listen to this. Is that it?
Amel and the Sniffers is really good. I think Amel and the Sniffers is
Yeah.
probably the wrong one, but
No,
there
they're
was
not bad. But
No,
what
yeah.
it is it's people doing the low budget things with a budget. And with
Right.
awareness. So it has awareness of, it has seen the failures and successes in the genre. And there is an actual mood board that went to creating that. And that's not as chaotic as some of the other things in the genre.
right.
I'm just saying, like, there's EQ on Amel and the Sniffers, okay? There's no EQ on Crass. That's Treble City.
Right. Yeah.
That whole album was recorded through the bridge pickup of a Telecaster. It lives to like peel paint.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's its purpose though. That's so I give it respect for that. It's a nail bomb. Like
Yeah.
nail bombs aren't supposed to feel good. You know, that's
And so
how I look at
another
it.
thing about like what is the responsibility of the industry, and like like record companies, they want to move units. Some people want to make a statement. For some people, it's an artistic statement. It's an art war, but there's casualties in an art war. Usually, it's people donating their own blood, their own money, because a guy that wants to have a sure shot investment. He's like, I don't know. I want to have something like the Bengals, but with bigger tits. They're like, okay, yeah, we could do that. And so, it's, and forgive me, like, I'm talking about the
you're
end.
good.
I don't want that. I thought the Bengals were fine, but like
The
that.
Bengals were.
And they were punk. The Bengals are punker than I'll ever be. That's the secret of punk.
Yeah, I think it's about it's self-motivated. It shouldn't be motivated by a buck, although you should learn how to put gas in your tank and food in your belly as you go along. And if you happen to be able to stack up some money, then good for you. But that's always the argument. That's a really interesting argument though, is like, at what point does Glenn Danzig stopped being punk? And it usually, for most people, it comes down to the point when money entered his life. Or Rollins was punk up until Rollins wasn't punk anymore. And why was Rollins not punk anymore? Well, it seems like he's okay financially, which is that's a weird place to be. I'm not sure if that should be anybody's.
Yeah. Well, and it's a talking point for like everyone's 14th birthday. You know what I mean? Like, and it's, some people have that conversation their whole life, but like Henry Rollins is punk because he says he is, or because he says he isn't in every interview he does, and he does an interview a day.
Right.
People keep talking to the guy,
Right.
because he was there, and he's
He's well spoken. He
he's got,
can he can
yeah,
yeah, he can step up in front of the camera and be understood. Johnny Rotten's not talking on TV for reasons.
he's my favorite. So he is my favorite. Like that stupid John Varvatos
Yeah.
panel where it has like,
Oh, where they get into him and Marky get into a
yeah,
fight.
like
How
I
often
like
do I watch that, Presley?
A lot, a lot.
it's incredible. So like, I love Johnny Rotten. Like, that guy was in so much pain.
Yeah.
There, Nora was falling apart.
Yeah.
Johnny was clear. I mean, he was shockingly fat.
Yeah.
He was hammered,
Yep.
and he's just falling apart. But he's also doing it right. There's
He's like
something.
Irishman. He's going down fighting. He's going down like, you know what? I don't like that I'm up here on stage with the guy that wears a fucking wig and claims to be something that he wasn't, like that. Marky Ramone's a special thing. I actually have a Marky Ramone poster behind me from a show we played with him.
Yeah.
He's a character that I might get into a fight with on one of those kind of panels too. I like the guys who were just watching it all and kind of giggling, like going like, what is going on?
Yeah, no, that Duff was great in it.
Duff was hilarious.
Henry Rollins was great in it, like, because they knew. Sit back.
Well, and they were like, welcome to a punk conversation, guys.
Yeah. Like, I'm so into Johnny Rotten. Like, it's hard to talk about certain subjects and then keep certain things about my personal life secret. But Johnny Rotten, my patron fucking saint. Love that dude. I love that dude. But then other people that are just like too cool for school, but too dangerous to do business with. Like, when I was a kid, my favorite band was like US Bombs. I fucking love.
I know Dwayne. Yeah, I know Dwayne.
Dwayne Peters is doing a good job. The guy's hardcore. He is hard fucking core.
Yeah, 100%. I played a show with him in a cornfield in the middle of Ohio, and it was wild. The Bombs showed up in their tour bus, and there wasn't a band there that could afford a van. It was like a punk show, and this kid booked the US Bombs onto it as a headliner. And they show up in their fucking tour bus, and we all play. There's no lights. There's no stage. There's no lights. We're parking cars with the headlights at the bands to be able to see anything. We do the thing. And then like I come off stage and they haven't even played yet, the Bombs. And Dwayne's like wandering around. Dwayne's been drinking Long Island iced tea all day, like from 10 in the morning until 10 at night. He went to a local place and bought everything. He's just mixing his own Long Islands. And I don't even know if I should tell this story, but I will. And so we get off stage off grass, and we hear all of this hubbub happening. And the guy that owns the property is like, "Where's my daughter?" And he's like, just pissed. And so they're looking for this girl. She's 13. She's missing. Nobody knows where she is. They're looking for her for a grip, and they're not letting the band play until they find her. Well, at the same time, the US Bombs drummer is missing. And they can't find him, and they're trying to get set up so that they can play after my band plays. Well, they found the drummer, and the 13-year-old gets a daughter on the bus doing rock and roll things. Needless to say, the US Bombs didn't play that night, and they left that farm so quickly that their bus went up on 2 wheels. It was so fucking insane. It was great.
US Bombs, that force of nature. And really, like, it was back when money was just being thrown at punk, except US Bombs was so authentic, so dangerous, so unable to get it together that it can't last. And Dwayne, to this day, like, puts a well-edited mini movie on Instagram every day about, psyops and spelling errors and all sorts of weird stuff, because the guy is in pain. And he was unemployable. Just too authentic, too talented, but too dangerous.
It's just a bizarre, like he's almost he's our scene's version of a child star. And I don't know how many people get that, but like that dude was legendary, one of the first real like well-paid skaters back in the day, like rock star skater status before he ever enters into the world as a musician.
Mhm.
He's in Suburbia, which is the like the day you become a punk rocker, you have to fucking watch Suburbia or you're not punk rock. And you know, he's the pretty skater kid in that movie, you know what I mean? And like
Poor Sarge guy.
he's our version, he's the punk rock child star. Him, Brandon Cruz, fucking Harley Flanagan. Harley Flanagan is 100% like a Hollywood child star, but out of like the New York punk scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
same trouble. Like Harley Flanagan is fucking Danny Bonaducci. Not saying that like to call him a nerd, like Danny Bonaducci will kick your ass. You know what I mean? Sorry, Harley, if you see this. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying like you get on Danny's bad side, he'll kick your fucking ass.
No,
It's
we all
Harley
know
Flanagan.
Danny Bonaducci is a bad motherfucker. Sandra D knew it.
What's that?
Sandra D knew it.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah. Yeah, I love that guy. He's nuts.
It's wild. It's wild.
And then I'm a big Johnny Ramone guy. And like that's part of like running a band is how do you keep a band together? Bands are forces of nature. You got to have that just kind of militaristic. It's got to be all about discipline. Like I learned that early on because
Right.
I'm completely out of my mind, but you need to have some kind of sustainability with a band. And so there has to be discipline. If you can't do that, you got to just build in the sustainability. So like Spellgrinder has that. I've gone through drummers, but Spellgrinder continues. You know?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that. You always have the drummer in a mask in the videos and stuff. Is it because it's a different cat all the time?
Oh
Or
yeah,
often?
it's me.
It's you.
It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the Grimoire video, in the first music video,
Yeah.
that's Nephthys drumming in the video, like not on the track, but in the video, that's her playing the drums.
Gotcha.
And then for the other videos, because I upgraded her to backup dancer because I thought that visually was just boss, you know, like I talk about more about that later, but upgraded her to just backup dancer, backup singer, and then in the videos I'll just put on a mask. We've had a handful of drummers, but not when I'm making videos. Like when I usually have a drummer, it's just you spend all your time doing band practice and you get like shit tight for gigs.
Mhm.
I tend to do videos right when I lose a drummer and I get really pissed off.
That sounds
Inspired.
familiar.
Yeah,
Does that sound familiar, Presley?
a little bit, maybe.
Yeah,
Whoa.
you want to like get some work done, huh? Oh
Yeah.
shit!
You lost your video.
I like it. It went to red really quick. That was
Yeah.
cool. Like
It's like a
uh-oh,
Francis Ford
nerd.
Coppola moment there.
Yeah, you get like a dad moment. You're gonna like check on her.
Yeah, I would run in the other room. Are you okay?
You didn't get freaked out. Like, where's your injuries, man?
I know what she's using for a camera right now. She's got an iPad on two stools with a cardboard box behind it.
Yep.
That's funny.
I'm the one with the nice stuff in here. She's got the so like you were saying, that's your studio. This is our studio. We have a tattoo shop. It's a big old house, and we don't live here or anything, but it's essentially like the band rehearsal space is in here. We record in here. We do video content. We do podcasts. We tattoo during the day. The other girl that's in the band with us, Scarica, she has a hair salon in the back called Looks That Kill. It's like I joke that it's our YouTube house. Like I don't know if you remember when that was a thing. Like those
Yeah,
pulp.
yeah. I've been watching some documentaries about those things.
Yeah. So this is our YouTube cult house where we just
Yeah.
creating content all day.
That's very cool. Yeah, I wanted to like match your tone because y'all and your guests always seem to have like an attractive setup. Like I have a couple like colored lights. Like usually in our music videos, like the secret to good music videos is just two different light fog machines and put on like green and put on pink and then just turn on the fog. Like usually I'm operating my own fog while I'm acting in the videos.
I had to decide whether to fog today or not. I usually do fog before the podcast just because it looks it gives cool depth of field. It's very cinematic. It makes the lights look cooler in the back. But we were running around late today, so I didn't fog it. But yeah, aesthetic is very important. And I think that's the thing with HorrorShock Records. I think that was what attracted me to Spellgrinder, was that you obviously got and you've kind of mentioned to me how much the control of the image needs to be yours, because you have an aesthetic eye. Do you know what I mean? You have a very you have a specific sort of approach to things, you know.
I wouldn't say that. That's not me.
What's that?
Stuff up about me. I'm really easygoing.
I'm really completely easygoing. No, yeah, it doesn't have to be cool. You could show up. You get a drummer for the show, and he shows up in cut off basketball shorts and a white T-shirt.
Oh man,
you're gonna be allowed to play.
You know what? Usually that is drummer syndrome. He shows
that is a drummer.
Like
I'm describing real ass drummers.
Yeah, he's got like a sideways 311 visor. You know, like that was just like the secret of my existence. Like just cruising through the late 90s, early 2000s. Whenever a drummer shows up, this dude's like, "You like fucking Dave Matthews Band?" It's just like, and he just busts out like a piccolo snare. And then you just know that you're about to hate life. No, I auditioned a drummer when I was living in Texas. He shows up and he's like, he's okay. But like an hour into it, he's like, "Man, it's getting kind of hot in here. You mind if I?" And then he just takes his he unzips the bottom. He's got
the zip off legs.
Yeah, and he starts explaining to me like this invention of pants that turn into shorts. And it did not fucking matter what he did after that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, you're
so great.
Yeah, I mean, this was like 10 years ago. I still think about this guy.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I've had that drummers. It's always like, you're really lucky if you get a drummer that knows how to look cool and listens to what your whole band listens to. That's a very lucky day.
Yeah,
it's hard. Yeah, I mean, you know, yes, image conscious. Like, it's really hard to be. I mean, when I was in LA and I was starting a band, like, you could be image conscious, but you don't even really need to talk about it because most people in your scene got the assignment.
Right.
You know, like, look excellent, right?
Yeah.
You know, out here in the desert, when I was like putting out like an APB for help, the people that would get recommended, I was just like, what? I can't sell this. Like, I wouldn't listen to this band. And like a big part of the, like, what Spellgrinder is there's a lot of things that make me not want to listen to a certain band, right? Like Spellgrinder is trying to make this band that would have got me into like heavy metal as a kid, because I didn't like heavy metal as a kid. I liked punk.
Right.
Heavy metal was very like dorky and, you know, I mean, like, I don't want to say gay because there's nothing wrong with being gay, but you know, like when you're gay,
90s gay, 80s gay.
You won't say you're gay.
You call it playground gay.
It's
like
not fucking
it has
chaps. You know, like just admit you're gay. You know, it's fine. Be gay. You know, like I love being gay. So like be gay. But the heavy metal to me just seemed like it just wouldn't recognize how gay it was. And it had that kind of like nerd anger. Like it didn't fit into the world and it wasn't cool about it, you know? And
it was, I think that was one of the things of I was always into metal as a kid. And But it really, if you're a deep fan of anything, you quickly get what's real and what's not real, and what's legit and what's not legit, and what, the difference between, Warrant and Motley Crue. An average person has no idea that there's a difference, you know what I mean? But like, I know the difference, you know what I mean? I know the difference between Dokken and Motley Crue. It's much closer at that point, but there's a big fucking difference still,
Yeah,
Or-
and I was wrong about that stuff, because turns
Sure.
out like that stuff is everything that I am, and I just didn't realize it because of marketing tactics,
Well,
like
but that's what I was saying, like the real shit. Like, so if you're doing like, say, glam metal sort of influence stuff, but you're coming from a real street place, I think it's just as ballsy as Johnny Thunders at that point. Johnny Thunders is a fucking gangster. He's got a switchblade in his pocket. Like, he's gonna
That's it,
cut
yeah.
you.
I'm
And,
coming from Johnny Thunders, and then I'm a punk rocker, and I like glam, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna mix that with heavy metal, but it's not gonna be glam metal. And then I do that, and it sounds just like fucking Motley Crue. And then it's like, oh wait,
right.
Motley Crue were a bunch of dangerous punk rock guys that like Aerosmith and
Yeah.
heavy metal. Like, oh, I'm a fucking asshole. When I was like 16, I thought that I invented country rock. I was like, well, I like country, it's cool,
Right.
but what if it hit like this? And I was to give it these influences. I had no idea about
Right.
list the bands. I had no idea about them. I just thought I was a fucking genius.
Right.
And I was, but I was just inventing something that was already invented.
Yeah. The Jojo Siwa effect. Jojo Siwa.
Yeah, bless her heart, she's inventing gay pop.
Gay pop. Oh. It was always gay, Jojo Siwa.
Yeah, bless her heart.
Okay.
Like, I mean, like, you know what? I listen to I have like a playlist that I like to clean my house to, and the playlist is called Not Guilty. Because I doth protest too much. But it's all Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney
Oh,
Spears.
man.
He's got some Pink on there. Got some fucking Natalie and Buglia. Like, gay pop is where it's at.
Dude. Well, look, we're part of a scene essentially, talking about horror punk. This whole scene that we're trying to be active in is a bunch of dudes with big boy haircuts and the same vest and the same Elvis voice and the same everything. And if we're just listening to the same bands and copying the other bands that are like us, nothing good ever happens. But if you listen to fucking Natalie and Bruglia, which I don't, but Pink I fucking definitely listen to. If you listen to that shit, like, what do you learn? You like, oh wow, in my song I should do this at the very beginning and do it twice over here, and then I'll double back, and then suddenly your punk rock songs are killer. And I think everybody, the most punk rock guy on the planet, from whoever you ask, Fat Mike, since he owns the Punk Rock Museum, we'll put it to Fat Mike. And I think he'll tell you all day that pop music, punk is just, we're doing pop music without trying to be.
That's what the Ramones are. The Ramones are like just
bubblegum.
Yeah.
100%. It's Palisades Park. Like, they're doing Beach Boys, bubblegum, doo-wop, fast and hard.
Yeah.
That's
And that stuff that had gone into the public domain, because it was all the rights to that shit was owned by gangsters and addicts and just people that were down and out doing state fair circuit. And they resurrected every 20 years. They resurrect something. There was something going on at the time called Nostalgia Wave.
Right.
And they talk about it in Phantom of the Paradise, like Elton John doing Benny and the Jets, and just people bringing back like ice cream changes into pop music and rehashing it, but playing it with modern technology, more distortion, more urgency. But the stuff that was hitting is, it's that bubblegum science of its hooks.
Mm-hmm.
And Spellgrinder, everything that we do is hooks. Our songs are short. every intro is a hook to this, and then is a hook to that. The pre-chorus is a hook to the chorus. There's a hook. I mean, like any 15 seconds of our songs will satisfy your ADHD because there's grabbers, there's repetition, there's tension, there's release, but it all fits into like 3 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the same reason that every fucking band has every horror punk band has Danzig vocals.
Yeah.
We are all conditioned to see what succeeds because we all want to be loved. And so some of us want to be fucking rich. And so what we do without even knowing it is we listen to the radio, we hear the top 10 things in the countdown, and we say, this is being rewarded. Why is this being rewarded? It's that snare sound. It's because there's no guitar solos. It's because she's wearing a bathing suit. It's because it's, you know, it's something, but like, we're always trying to think, why is this successful? Now, in certain genres, they'll do that same formula, that same learning. And that's why genres start to get like these, or subgenres. It's all subgenres at this point, right? That's why they start to get these really uniform things. Like everyone's like, oh, you know, it's just like, well, why? Because every time you do that, you have all these friend bands now, and you're getting the fucking things. Like Spellgrinder's biggest criticism is I sing weird. And that it's really, it's a strength for us because it makes us sound unique. But for certain people like safety.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're drawn to things that are successful, things that they'll think there'll be people there. You want to go to a bar where there's going to be girls at, you know? If you're a girl, you want to go to a bar where you think there's going to be guys at. But not only guys, because that's an unsafe ratio. So you're looking for certain things that say, this is successful. Here's what I have to do in order to benefit from that. And if you really want to crack the code and figure out how to shine amongst those people, you start injecting things like, all right, that shit's all great, but like, I'm playing heavy metal right now, like, and I like Metallica a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like my least favorite song by the Bee Gees. I still like more than my most favorite Metallica song.
Gotcha.
Because it's better. And there's things to learn and all that kind of stuff. ABBA's a better band than any fucking band.
Right.
What could I take from ABBA, which is just perfect fucking pop, and inject into like heavy metal storytelling, which bands have already done it and you don't even know it until you listen to ABBA and you're like, oh my God, Judas Priest listens to ABBA.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
You know, like
And Joan Baez. Yeah.
There's shit that happens and it's incredible. Also, ABBA is glam as fuck.
Right.
You know, it's you won't even know that. You'll just think like Dancing Queen, put it on. You know, like ABBA has AC/DC drums. AC/DC has ABBA drums, like that big pop. You know,
Yeah.
those same drums you'll hear in Accept.
Right.
Accept is like German AC/DC.
Yep.
Hits like disco. Like it's fucking great. Like
Yeah. Yeah. You listen to that hi-hat sizzle. It's 100%. Like it's interesting you say that too. I think all three of the people that are here in this podcast right now, we all have bands that I think are very kind of new. We're all doing something really different, but we're all rooted in some sort of like classic rock history of some sort. And I think all three bands are definitely pressing into glam rock and heavy metal territory, which is weird for the horror rock scene. And it's even weird for what is called metal now. Like when you say metal, it's people think you're talking about what? What do the people think, Presley?
Screamo and stuff. Like they think you're talking about like that or what's his name? Kim Dracula. They think you're talking
Kim Dracula or As I Lay Dying or you know what I mean? Like those things are metal now. So cool, whatever. But so what we do that used to be metal is now some kind of a classic rock or something. Do you know what I mean? But it's not because it's not actually old. But it's
Yeah.
not it's not like one of these young bands that's trying to not, who is it, Greta Van Fleet, like we're not trying to sound like existing band. You're not trying
Right.
to sound like Alice Cooper. It's just coincidental that your voice does a thing and you're singing about scary stuff, and
Yeah.
so you're gonna get Alice Cooper
Yeah.
comparisons or
Yeah.
whatever.
Alice Cooper was, he was, I wouldn't say he was my peanut butter and the chocolate, but I got into Alice Cooper as a little kid because every last day of school,
School's
my mom
out.
would come pick me up from school, blaring schools out of whatever fucked up hoopty ride we were driving around in with duct tape back then.
Yeah.
It would be blaring schools out, and that was very
So
cool, you know.
Were you raised about around hard rock and stuff? Like, did your is your mom of the age that was like her jam was like old Zeppelin and Alice Cooper and stuff?
Yeah, I had a varied upbringing because my mom and dad divorced when I was like 5.
Yeah.
So already that's going to kind of splunge my musical trajectory. And then
Sure.
she married a guitarist who was like a shit hot, like Sunset Strip, like lead guitar player back in the late 60s, early 70s. All through the 80s, like he plays on like a Rick James, straight out of
Okay.
L7. He's playing uncredited guitar on that. He I was raised like he was just playing awesome music, but like my mom got me into like Edgar Winter Group and Foreigner and Led Zeppelin. AC/DC was like, that's the reason I like rock and roll. Like I remember the first time I heard AC/DC,
Yeah.
it's like, what the fuck is that? And I remember asking my stepdad, it's like, why does the guitar sound like that? And he's like, well, it's because that's an SG through a Marshall. I was like, get a Marshall. And
Yeah.
like a couple months later, he got a Marshall. I was like, play Black and Black. And he played it. And it was like, oh my God. And so like, that's where the hard rock stuff came from. My dad, he's like a radio guy. So like through my dad, he got me into like the Ramones. Like I got into Green Day and I came home from school. He's like, check this out, boy. And he had all this vinyl out on the ground and he put on Ramones Mania on vinyl. And
Yeah.
it was like, oh my fucking God. It was insane. And
Yeah.
so like that was my favorite band from then on, right? But yeah, he got me into like, his favorite was Elvis Costello. So like one of my favorites of all time is Elvis Costello. But then like he liked rap. It got me into Tom Waits. Like most of my bad decisions I've made in life is Tom Waits adjacent, you know, like got me into that whole beat life. So I've lived a really awful life, you know.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
wanted to be Jack Kerouac. I wanted to be Tom Waits. I wanted to be Charles Bukowski. You got to make poor decisions. You got to put yourself into action.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And that's why you're able to bring soul to what you do now. That's why you don't sound fake doing whatever even if you sit down and you go, what would be an interesting concept for me musically today? You know, thinking about it completely from a mental place, not a primal place. You're still going to be able to inject primal into it where it's time to do it, because that's how you've lived. You've got that vibe, that smell on you, and that don't come out. You know what I mean? That's just there now.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing about modern music. Young kids are always in the shop. You know, I'm in a business where I deal with people of all ages, but I deal with 18 to 20-year-olds a lot because they're freshly, newly getting tattooed,
Yeah.
and they're showing me their music, and I always want to be like, here's AC/DC, and here's, you know, that thing that you're hearing is this. You just don't know it's this. You know what I mean?
I get a problem with that myself. I'm 20, so my peers are that age and they're listening to that stuff, and I start trying to be all old man about stuff to my friends, and it makes friendships weird.
But
I'm like,
Presley
but like,
also,
don't you realize, like, you mentioned Green Day, like Green Day's influences are like Motley Crue, like Billy Joe Armstrong loves Nikki Sixx, you know, goes on and on.
It's
Yeah.
hard for Presley though. Like I watch her because like she was the kid. I was in the Jackalopes when she was little, so she was around the shit, and I was a traveling tattooer. She was at all these conventions and stuff. So like as a young kid, she's on the back wall there. She's got a picture of Pamela DeBar. Like she befriended Miss Pamela from the GTOs, and
Yeah.
Yoko Ono fan and whatever. Like she's got a thing that you're not going to run into other 20-year-olds with her taste. So it's an interesting conversation to listen in on sometimes. And I'm like, oh, that poor kid, she's trapped in like a 50-year-old's brain.
But what you do, but you made her, she can't have imposter syndrome now. Like, that's it. Like, the young kids, like, they're authentically young, which is a cool thing to be.
Yeah.
Like, we're a hell authentic, but we might not be young.
Right.
But, youth has a certain authenticity to it. But, like, luckily, when I was getting cool, there was no such thing as like emo. So I didn't have to worry about that tainting me. I was never going to sing like that. It wasn't going to happen. Like,
Right.
emo didn't come out until I was a grown man, So like, it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't an issue.
Did get tainted by emo.
It bummed me out. Like I liked them until American Idiot.
Yeah.
It was nice, like kind of like being on the Titanic with them and just reverently like watching the bow go down with Warning.
Yeah, Warning is when
it's playing. It's like, oh, this is nice. This is age appropriate rock, And then they come out with some fucking like propaganda bullshit. Like I like that it was a rock opera because I love the Who. I love concept albums.
Exactly.
Spellgrinder's next album is a concept album about a mummy. So I liked that they were upping the scale, but the subject matter and the production and then like the fucking nail polish and just that bullshit, like they just like, they got Hot Topic. Now here's what happened. Warning didn't make any fucking money. Okay, it didn't. It's cool. It made nothing, and people were like, "Oh, that's nice, right?" And then they made a decision that they want to be able to pay their rent for the rest of their fucking lives, and they Hot Topicked out, and it made them useless to me, but it introduced them to everyone younger than me.
Absolutely, they fully rebranded and made it so it's more accessible for everybody, which is I get why people look down on that, but
my whole deal was like from 94 on, oh, they're sellouts. Like my second show I ever went to was at 924 Gilman Street. Like when I was in high school, I used to go to show. Do you know 924 Gilman Street?
I do, yeah. I've watched all the
documentaries. It shows that, like back when Sweet Children was on the rafters and shit. It was like, it was mid 90s Gilman Street.
Yeah.
So, and being a sellout was a rotten thing to be labeled, but like Green Day was always from 39 Smooth, they were a pop band. They had hooks, they had all, they were powerful, they had so much energy, they would play like they were playing to 1 million people, to 2 people, which is why you invest money into them, right? Because they always work. They're Energizer bunnies. After they were like, well, you guys go ahead and make one more album you want, we'll see how that goes. It doesn't go. The record industry is always like, all right, well, here's what you're gonna do, Junior. Hot Topic owns you now. Go put on a fucking like red tie. And that's how shit goes, and it's fine. And like my buddy Kevin is in Green Day now. Back in my LA club days, and I used to just hate it. People were like, "Oh my god, Prima Donna's the fucking band, Prima Donna." And I was in all these like, I was at LA's Sunset Strip scallywag back in like the 2010s, and Prima Donna had toured opening for Green Day, and I just remember like moving to LA and like hearing about them, just like, I don't want to hear about this shit. Fuck everyone that's not me. Well, finally, like I was in a band and we opened up for Prima Donna, and I got a chance to see them, and Kevin was the most talented, beautiful, best performing motherfucker I'd ever seen in my life, and I fucking hated him. He was so great. And then he just turns out to be the coolest fucking guy. All the guys in the bands are just the coolest guys. We were great friends. We'd go out and play road gigs together, play together in Vegas. Kevin's in fucking Green Day now. That's fucking insane, you know? Like,
that's cool. Yeah.
that's why I don't want to talk too much shit, because if they're like, hey, fool, paint the nails.
Like, okay.
Guitar. Like, okay. We're gonna go tell people how to fucking vote. Let's go. You need to move out of the country. Let's go. So yeah. Then I would do it, of course, because I'm not gonna not join Green Day. But that's
Shout out Billy Armstrong.
Yeah.
Any of us would love to join Green Day if you want us to.
yeah, like really.
I wouldn't join Green Day until they
sorry.
admit to how many songs they plagiarized from Motley Crue.
Okay.
And then
I've got like 21 Guns.
and then I'll
That's
fucking
phone line by ELO, but they know that Green Day fans are children, and children don't listen to ELO. So like, do you telephone line?
yeah.
Yep.
Da,
You know,
da, da,
like,
da,
and
da.
it's not the first
Well,
time.
even back to like before even American Idiot, like, it's not Brain Stew, is it?
Yeah,
No,
Brain Stew
Brain
is
Stew.
25 or 6-4 by Chicago.
Yeah. They've been doing it.
Ba-na-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na-na,
Kind of.
ba-na-na-na.
I mean, and if you don't chop it up, it's just a descending, like, I Want to Be Your Dog kind of has that.
Mhm.
Twist of Cain kind of has that. It just doesn't have the stops.
Right.
Where Green Day really rip off somebody is on the Warning album. There's a song called Picture Book. Oh, no. The song Warning.
Oh, but it's
Yeah,
Picture Book by the
book.
Picture
pic-
Book.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Kinks.
That's Picture Book by the Kinks. Straight up. But Green Day is like, you stupid fucking kids don't listen to the Kinks.
I do. I still love Green Day. I can't help it. I guess I'm too young, but I just love Green Day still. I'm like, I don't care. They stole
Well,
the
the
right
reason-
stuff at least, you know. They
The
stole the
reason
good
like
stuff.
Green Day outed themselves because they cover a Kink. They do Tired of Waiting
Mhm.
on the Private Parts soundtrack.
I didn't know that.
Dude,
The
Billy
greatest
Joe,
movie of
Billy
all
Joe
time.
has the Jesus Christ Superstar logo tattooed on his forearm. Like that was
Yeah.
his first tattoo. He's a theater, like Broadway music guy. Like that straight up. Like you just, he knows everything he's doing. He's not pulling that out of his ass and accidentally writing other people's songs.
No.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying
no.
it's the worst thing ever, because if you listen to my shit, you're gonna be like, that's Ministry, that's Danzig, that's Motley Crue too.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
nothing wrong
Like,
with that.
It's
Yeah, like-
bizarre to me when it's so blatant and then
Mhm.
nobody calls it out. Like George Harrison got fucking sued for a 3-chord thing. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
That's from
George
nerds
did.
that don't know anything about where music comes from. It's like
Yeah.
most music,
Yeah,
like all blues,
true.
like
Yeah.
the
Rolling Stones. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
what do you mean?
The Rolling Stones, well, they have a few songs.
She's
like, I could
she was about
go.
ready to give you the
What?
education. You're like, what?
You
She
keep
was
the
like, so
Stones.
Mick Jagger met Keith Richards when they were 14, and
They
Yeah.
were playground.
Yeah, bless their hearts. I love the Stones. I love the Stones. I'm a Stones dude. I had a Keith Richards haircut most of my fucking life. I actually technically have one right now. I'm just calling it like 92 Danzig, but like
Yeah.
you don't have Danzig's build, so it's 66 Keith Richards instead.
I actually identify as having Danzig's build. So
Oh, okay. I identify as being Prince. Often,
yeah, I'm
so-
buff in my mind. I am mind swole.
Me too. Me too. I feel that.
Mhm.
No, like on the Shockwaves, the greatest Shockwaves Volume 2 of all
Yes,
time.
It
The
is.
greatest one since Volume 1.
It is.
With our song, which was Thank You So Much.
It had to be the intro. As soon as I heard that song, I was like, this sets the tone for this entire comp.
Yeah, and I'm not ripping off a song on that. Like in my mind, Genesis was like that was kind of like a school's out for summer kind of riff.
Yeah.
Right? That's a cool little thing going.
Yeah.
Let's fucking dig in a little harder, you know? And so like that was kind of that, you know, like I used to just like be kind of bummed out when I was exploring songwriting because I thought the artists had to do things that were completely untreaded on. That was your responsibility.
Right.
And it was my curse to have been born after all these songs have been written. So like, what other combinations could I find? Well, maybe it's not that. Maybe you need to make this music on like vacuum cleaners now. Maybe you need like just trying to think of like the whole tagline of there is no new art. And my responsibility to art is to find new art. And then I realized I'm not actually interested in that. Like I do like being avant-garde. I do like trying to find new ways to do things. But the God I serve is I love rock and roll. Like that's my religion. My religion is rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
And punk rock was a cleansing fire for rock and roll. Glam rock before that was a cleansing fire for rock and roll. He was taking it, he was making it 3 chords, he was making it flamboyant, you know, like these are what I like about rock and roll. It's like things that reduce rock and roll. I like that. Hip hop kind of reduced rock and roll in a lot of ways. Like, it's awesome, you know, like it's primal. It's one chord a lot of times. Like it's like, oh, that's really interesting. And like, what is my responsibility? My responsibility is just like I just want to play awesome, dangerous, engaging rock music that hopefully like lodges with people, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're succeeding. I think, you know, when I first heard you guys, I think my statement was that like, that first song on Shockwaves there, that sounds like the theme song for a movie that I'm bummed I didn't see. Like, why did I not see this movie? This soundtrack is awesome to this movie. And that's a new thing, sort of. Do you know what I mean? Like you guys are taking, and I say you guys as being mainly you, and I know that, but you're taking like existing things and doing your own fusion of it, and not to the degree that you're pissing on any of it, because like if you make it too jazz, it's now you kind of pissed on the rock and roll. If you make it too prog, like you said, you've pissed on the rock and roll. Like the rock and roll is being served, but it's being served differently in a way that like it's really recognizable as what it is. Nobody's going to doubt like, is this rock or not? And but it's also it's creating kind of a perfect moment. There's an NPR radio show called Filmically Perfect. I don't know if you've ever caught it, but it's like a national public radio, like boring people talking about movies on a Sunday afternoon. But like their thing of a film being perfect is it has to have, you know, X, Y, and Z. And one of the main things is that it has to exist in its own universe, whether it's Cab Driver or Goodfellas or Star Wars or whatever. It really does exist in its own universe. And Spellgrinder 100% has its own universe.
I appreciate that. That was the cool thing about starting the band when we did it, was that you are existing in a vacuum. You get to build your own image. Having whatever understanding of social media one can arrive at by 2020 shit, like I was in my late 30s at that point. I wasn't even 40 yet. It was a great starting off point, because you're like, all right, this is our image, this is our this. And also, it's hard to start a band. When you want to get people to play with you, if you have songs, you'll be like, yeah, it goes like this. And you'll be like, I don't know, why don't we do something like this? And you'll be like, because it goes like this, like, I don't know, you know? And so one thing that really shuts people up is when you can actually make such a detailed demo of your idea that it shows the person. I mean, like, and it sucks to be able to strip them of being able to collaborate on that level, but it proves the point that the arrangement would go like this. And the benefit of the arrangement going like this is that here's where the pocket is. Here's how you'll like, and then you could actually get past all the bullshit and you could build a song. Like, I do like working collaboratively, but in a lot of cases, it really dilutes a product.
I think a lot of the bands on the label are in similar but different kind of operating functions as to what you do. A lot of music outside of the horror scene is the same way, where you sort of like have one entity that's creating all of this stuff, and then there's these other people that bring it to life on stage now, more so than ever before. I mean, obviously there's historic, Prince is recording every instrument on his album and then somebody else plays it on stage. But I think it's really getting to be a regular thing, and none of us can afford to be that collaborative at a certain age. Like when you're 16, 18, 19, and you don't have a whole lot of overhead and your life can be your band, then hell yeah, 4 or 5 human beings all collaborating, becoming one thing is powerful and beautiful and whatever. But like if we try to do that now at 30 or 40 or 50, when you have the world that we live in currently, the cost of living being what it is, we can't afford to not do it this way, which is to make a fan. Because if you waited for 4 other people or 3 other people and then had to go and pay $50 to $100 an hour for studio time, number one, would you make all the choices you made in recording it the way that you've recorded it with you being the musician? Or would you have settled on, I know how I did it in the past with other people, and it's you settle on shit. We've got 4 hours worth of money to spend in the studio. Those drums are fucking slightly slow, but okay, the song's a little slow now. The accent's in the wrong spot. Countless songs I've done that with. But now that we have control of it, we do everything in-house. If it's not that great, I'll come back to it in 2 months and rework it. And if you can put a band on stage that does justice to your recordings, you're winning. And you're not doing anything that different than what Kiss or Alice Cooper or even Green Day, for that matter, is doing. There's a lot of times where the Stones, bring up the Stones. There's so many songs. It's Keith playing guitar and bass. A guy you never see playing the piano over there. What's his name? Stu on piano over there. You know what I mean?
Or Ian Stewart. There's 2 of them. Not Ian Stewart or
I can't remember the other guy's name. Oh, Ian McLagan.
Yeah, McLagan.
Ian McLagan.
Yes.
From Faces.
Yeah.
Yes. From the
Yeah,
Small
played with the
Faces,
Stones, too.
I have a signed Small Faces poster over there. Kenny Jones, the drummer, signed it for me. He's also the drummer of The Who.
I went to a place where they bought their jackets called Sherry's of London, like on Carnaby Street, and I got like a boating jacket that total Small Faces boating jacket.
That's awesome. That's
fuck. Love that shit. Yeah.
You know what? Earlier when I was talking about Janie Lane, I was actually going to reference Steve Marriott, but I was afraid too many people would miss it. Do you know what I mean? Like, as far as a rock star,
that guy, he didn't lose his talent, but his hairline every year it would go back an inch, and he was such a little guy, so he got chubby. But like you can see, there's video of him just playing in a bar, like right before he fucking burned himself to death in his own bed. And,
allegedly.
allegedly.
And he's short and fat, wearing goddamn overalls, and he's shredding. He's awesome. Like, and it's hard to look at, but like so much talent. That guy was a fucking child star. That guy, he was like,
he was in all of it.
Yeah.
100.
And yes, Humble Pie.
We were also talking about. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was about to cut you off. In
Yeah,
the middle of a
don't ever
humble
fucking
pie
cut me
quote.
off. I was about to talk shit on Peter Frampton.
Uh-oh.
Go,
But
go.
I wanted to talk some serious shit on Peter fucking Frampton.
All right, bring it. We're here for you.
Okay. All right.
Are we
No,
starting with
okay,
I'm
no,
in
no,
you?
you know what? I won't talk shit because here's the deal. Like
I'm
Frampton
in
Comes
you.
Alive is really good. Frampton Comes Alive. I am making a Spellgrinder live album.
Nice.
I'll tell y'all right now, the secret of the Spellgrinder live album is using canned audience and just really pumping up the crowd because that's what Frampton Comes Alive is.
And
That
Kiss
guy
Alive.
that played that show, he was not selling records. Like his albums that were coming out, no one was buying them. No one was giving a shit. People were like going to the show, but they weren't losing their fucking minds.
It wasn't until Frampton Comes Alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he had to give them.
Comes out, they just crank up the audience so people hear it. They're like, oh my God, people love this shit. And so they go there and they lose their mind because it's suggested to them that they love it. That's
It's
the
the
marketing.
demonstration tape.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
same as Kiss Alive.
Yeah,
Kiss Alive is not how it was. This is how we're telling you it's to be from here forward.
Exactly.
You're going to show up and do this.
Yeah, that's the P.T. Barnum. That's the fucking illusion.
Yeah.
Use your illusion, bro. Not like this is the illusion of promotion.
Mhm.
It's a fucking con, and you should be thankful it is. Like, I will talk so much shit on business. I will talk so much shit on formulas and blah, 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 but use it because those are tools. If what you want to do is do something, you want to manipulate your own reactions, but like you want chicks to like you, you want people to be afraid of you, like success and things that attract success, things that if I get on the internet every day and I talk about how miserable I am, people don't want to interact with me.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
And they certainly don't want to buy into the fantasy you're presenting as a musician or an artist.
If
That's
I go
something
like,
that we
how
deal
come no
with.
one's buying my album? How come no one's doing this? You're gonna be like, what a fucking loser. I'm not gonna sign this guy because this guy's a sinking ship. I don't want to be around him. And
I feel truly bad for those people. There are labels and bands alike that use the internet as a place to like cry into their pillow. And I understand it makes you feel good to get things off your chest and to share things, but if you're telling everybody that your band's not doing business, everybody's going to go like, well, I wonder why that is. And they're going to go on to another band that seems to be doing good business. Or label for that matter. If you're crying that you're I'm going to have to shut it up because nobody's buying records. Well, why the fuck are you selling records then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sell something else. So, you know what I mean? Like, why are you here? Like, you should be here because you love it and you're going to do it no matter what. At least that should be what we say.
Lie, you know, like that's the thing. Just lie about it. Just lie. You know, do what Anthrax does. You don't release your sales numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. Netflix doesn't tell their streaming numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's okay. Just you know, just go and like act like you're the big deal. I mean, there's so much shit that I like. It's hard for me to process that it never actually made money.
Yeah. And I think it's dangerous for the artists to have too much of a voice. I mean, look at what we have to go through when Gene Simmons or Glenn Danzig says something that we have to live down for the next week as their fan. That's enough. But if those guys were crying and telling us about their wives and their lives and their hives and whatever else, like we would not be following those people. So I think it's dangerous for us sometimes because we want to be people. We want to go, well, look, I'll let you guys all in on the secret. The band's actually me and a MacBook, and you know, we're posing for the pictures and we're putting filters on it and all of that. Like, who the fuck wants to hear that? George Lucas doesn't come out and tell us like, look, guys, Star Wars isn't real. You know what I mean? Like, no, he just goes, I made a fucking movie. Go watch it. It's awesome. If you want to see how it's made, here's how it's made. We did amazing shit. You know, you made an album that sounds like it came out in 1986 on a major label and would have been recorded at Sunset Sound in your fucking extra room in your house. That's amazing. That's fantastic. That's shit people should learn about. But like, not like,
you gotta find the audience. Like I talk about that shit, but I talk about it like an hour into the interview because it's usually like only the hardcore that make it that far.
Oh yeah.
And then,
We're at a special place right now in this podcast where there's 4 people listening to this at this point.
We can say anything now.
I'm just
all
kidding.
this shit is evergreen, baby. Like this
That's
is
right.
like, I go back and I listen to your stuff all the time. Like I like to do my homework because I like to, I'm just like anyone else. Like I want to be perceived as being cool and gregarious and all this
Sure.
kind of stuff in real life. I'm fucking insane and I'm weird. And you know, you got to project this thing. And so yeah, I like to know what I'm getting in for, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I actually know when that peanut butter hit the chocolate for me.
Yeah, it was, so that's what's funny is you brought that up, and I had decided in this one, I was like, I'm going to throw the formula out with Spooky. I'm just going to talk, me and PJ, and you brought up the peanut butter and the chocolate, so I
just keep fishing.
man. What was the peanut butter and you said Alice Cooper may not have been it. What was the peanut butter and the chocolate for horror and rock and roll going together for you?
It was the Groovy Ghoulies.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Kepi Ghoulie.
Yeah,
Dude.
my first tattoo, like actually, so like it has a mouth now. That's actually like a mole, and it was just like this mummy. Now there's like an Elvis sarcophagus behind it. That was my first tattoo I got when I was just like on my 18th birthday. I got a Groovy Ghoulies mummy because the night before I had seen Groovy Ghoulies at like the Glass House. I loved Lookout Records and shit when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff on Lookout was like, they had like the gnarly stuff, you know, but then it was like, it was going off the fumes of Green Day, right?
It was soft boys and playing punk music. They were snotty. They would disrupt class, but they didn't have a switchblade in their pocket.
On a good day, good day, you know, like Screeching Weasel and the Queers, they were like, you know, they were like in their 30s. Right. They had some cred, and they were experimenting with the formula of like mass communicating, right? But then there was bands like Squirt Gun, who like I hated that shit. I thought it was nerdy. Yeah. And then there was all these bands that were like the Crumbs, like they were like a really rock and roll sounding band. Mm-hmm. And then there was there was all these bands, but the Groovy Ghoulies. That's
my era. When I talk about the Jackalopes, you're mentioning all bands that I've played with or toured with 100% right now.
Yeah, they had a cool stage image. Yeah. Like Kepi would like do that black line across, and he was skinny, and Roach was like a babe, and so yeah, like Spellgrinder, like having Nephthys in the band as a backup dancer. Part of that is I wanted to have like a Lux Ivy branding, like as a focal point. I wanted to have like her be my Ivy. Yeah. But also, like Kepi and Roach, I just thought that was a really cool interplay. And yeah, like they had like cool horror themes of the song, horror themes of the albums. And then they had like a fucking like trick-or-treat basket. They would throw out candy and like little like spider rings and shit.
Yeah, it was the nostalgia was like, and it was for most of their audience, they didn't get where like the 60s cereal box kind of nostalgic shit, but like, I'm old enough to have kind of remembered all of it, but like, yeah, man, they really, you know, one of my biggest regrets back in 1996, I think, ish. I was going to put out, I had a different label at the time, and I was going to put out a tribute to the Monkees. And I had the Groovy Ghoulies committed. I had Blank 77 committed. I had so many killer bands from that era committed to do Monkees tracks for this thing. And then it all started to become clear how much it was going to cost me to license the music to put out the vinyl back then. And it just fucking fell apart. But like, that was back in the era where I had to send people letters. There were no, it wasn't email yet. Like I was sending people letters, and then they would write or call me back, and it was a wild time. But
sometimes it's like Mike Nesmith calling you up, like, why do you want to use my stuff?
Yeah, he'd be like, save the Texas prairie chicken, and just hang up on me. I'd be like, what the
By
hell?
the length of my beanie, you will.
I love the Monkees are my first favorite band. They are my probably, if I had to go down with only one favorite band, even though I have Kiss tattooed on me, I'd go down with the Monkees. But Mike Nesmith, his son Christian Nesmith, he lives out there in L.A., kind of near you. And he and his girlfriend came out here. I booked a show and promoted a show for Christian Nesmith out here, and he came out, and it was just wild to like stare at him and just know like your genetics are half fucking Woolhat Nesmith, dude. Like,
Yeah.
whoa. It was awesome.
And then you play head for him for the first time ever,
Dude. I rented it
played
for my
Monkey
wife's
Song.
for my wife's I think 30th or 40th birthday party. I rented a movie theater and played Head. That was our first date. We watched Head on our first date, my wife.
That's
and I.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good first date. It worked.
Oh, it worked. We're still 30 years later, we're still here.
Yeah, I took mine to like some terrible first dates. Like, I mean, I asked her to go see Heart with me, but then before that, she took me to the Autry Museum to go see someone like Spinning Guns that I work with now. And then,
Oh, wow. That's
and
rad.
then, fuck it. What was I talking about? Because I wanted to talk about
First
something. I was like, I got call waiting mode right now.
Yeah.
I played
We
a
were talking
monkey.
about the Groovy Ghoulies, going back to the
Oh,
Groovy
okay.
Ghoulies and that whole vibe. The
Yeah,
Cramps,
that
Groovy Ghoulies.
that was the first horror. Actually, yeah. Then right after that, like 97, Misfits reissued all their shit, and that's when I
Right.
heard Misfits.
So were you hip? That's an interesting question. Were you hip to the Misfits going into that scene where you were seeing the Groovy Ghoulies and the Queers and all of that? Like, were you hip to the Misfits at that point, or were they just?
No, I was, but there was this duality, and I liked their early stuff, but I don't want to bum people out because I have watched your show. When Famous Monsters came out,
Yeah.
it was not for me. So
Right.
like I just didn't understand why it existed. And I thought, to me it sounded like hard rock, heavy metal. I thought it was like Kiss, and I thought it was like toy music. I didn't get it.
It kinda
But
is.
Misfits had the greatest vocalist, like the old stuff, which we were getting like passing tapes around of.
Yeah.
It had the greatest vocals you had ever fucking heard. Like Danzig, to me, the way that guy fucking sings. It's funny because when people sing like Danzig, they don't sing like Danzig.
Right. They're
They
making some
sound-
Danzig noises and then just
yeah,
trying
like,
to be
like
Danzig.
Danzig is so good. Like
Mhm.
he's not. I mean, when Danzig tries to sing like Danzig, he sounds like people singing like Danzig. But like Danzig is an amazing singer. He's incredible. He's the best.
Yes.
No one sings that good. So it's like I didn't know what to do with Misfits without that. And I didn't know,
Agreed.
and also the songs. Like I love the old songs, but also, and this is like I like things beyond Static Age
Yeah.
way more now. But back then, it's like if it wasn't on Static Age, I didn't want to fucking know about it. It sounded like trash to me. Like my kid ears is just like, this is trash. Like Static Age, that's fucking music. They're like, look,
Yeah.
the tempo,
Yeah.
the chords, like the hooks, like that's fucking music. And I didn't understand hardcore at the time. I was just like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
You know, you look at like a fucking like a video, or I'd go to the shows. I mean, I've seen fucking Agnostic Front 50 fucking times. Like I know what it's like to have your fucking head kicked off. You know, like I don't get it.
Right.
Yeah, my first show at Gilman Street, there was a couch on fire being thrown around while people were shooting bottle rockets in there.
Yeah.
And that's just fucking. That was like a Wednesday.
That's the 90s.
You know,
Yep. That's the 90s for
it's
sure.
like,
I
you should-
definitely had. So at the time of what you're talking about, I was in the Jackalopes or starting the Jackalopes, and everybody else. Well, actually, me and the guitar player are the same age, but he was passing as a younger guy. But the other guys were like, your age, maybe even a little bit younger than you. And they were all down with the Michael Graves Misfits. And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I talk shit about him on TV in an interview, in a magazine interview, and then he successfully became the face of horror punk at a certain point, and so we ended up having to tour with him. We didn't have to, but we did. And yeah, I don't even want to go into who he was or anything like that, but so I kind of had to eat my words a little bit, at least on that end, and say like, okay, I'll shut up and we'll go out with this guy. And I gotta say, there's a certain psychology in that dude's head that's like, he can't help but be anything but oppositional because he's in an oppositional situation. Like, they shouldn't have called that the Misfits. They should have said the guys from the Misfits have a new thing. It's similar. Name it something that's relative. They're the Fiend Club now. They're the whatever. And they could have done that. But like, when we would play with him, people would pay the full price to come to the show just to try to fight that guy, just to try to like yell, "You suck, fuck you, Danzig," like just request Danzig songs all night. And like, I saw that guy fight the crowd like 3 times solid. And like, it's like, it was wild. So it's a bizarre thing. It was almost like politics though. There's this like, is it Danzig or is it Graves? Do you know what I mean? And I was a team Glenn, and most of my friends.
That's why
like,
Spellgrinder tries really hard to not talk about such things, because it alienates a good chunk of your audience.
Yeah. 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 I think there are times when alienation's okay. I think if you get to a slightly bigger level than where you're at right now, I say you go full Nikki Sixx and just start talking shit. Because there was some time, when you're not selling albums right now, you're in between tour cycles. Like, you need your name in the fucking paper. You know what I mean? So I think there is a special place for the Nikki Sixxes and the Gene Simmons and the Glenn Danzigs. They know it's time for me to come out and say something very divisive politically or about another band. And that's almost part of the thing. But where we're at right now, like, yeah, no, we should stay away from that stuff.
Yeah, well, in 2020, like, people are a little different now than they used to be.
Yeah.
There's nothing inherently wrong with being a liberal or conservative, but
Right.
we got to a point where, as audience members, we're not able to digest a product if we think maybe they don't think like us.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be able to, like, you don't want to start limiting your audience. I avoid even talking about those things because I want everyone to have the opportunity to enjoy my music without figuring out what I do for work, what other kind of music I play, like bobbity bobbity blah, things that people can't deal with because they have lost the ability to enjoy art made by artists,
Yeah, well, unless your band's about, like, if your band is, our whole point is that we're political and we're bringing you the hottest topics on whatever's going on right now, and like, like, there are bands that, I don't think you should get your news from bands, but there are bands that kids get their news from, essentially. Like, their dynamics are wrapped up in that. Like, go for it. Like, that's what you obviously do. But I don't think that when you're a horror band or a pop group or whatever, I don't think that your thing should be about any kind of specific class or politic or race issue or anything like that. I think it's like, that's so not what music's about. It's for your ears, it's for your heart, it's for your soul. It's not about politics and numbers and shit like that. If somebody's a bad person, you don't want to support them, don't support them. Like, straight up. But like,
but some people
it's a
don't even
slippery
have to
slope for every
figure out,
Misfits.
like,
I know that. Yeah,
I don't even want to know,
It's really interesting though. There is a thing where we do get to find out who people are, and like, we all know that Glenn, Jerry, and Doyle all voted for Donald Trump, 100%. All 3 of those dudes voted for Trump, and so all of their fans that wear that Crimson Ghost on their back that are now on the internet this past week, like railing against people who have done that. Like you need to think about some things that you might not agree with it, but it's a reality for people of particular generations, social classes, whatever. Like we're not all getting this. Like you said, the news departments are coming at us from two sides with two completely different newses with completely different names for what things are. Like I think we all need to step back and go like, you know, Jello Biafra's politics and Mike Ness's politics are not the same politics. Like, do we like those bands less because of their politics? No, fuck no. The Dead Kennedys rule. Fucking Social Distortion rules. You know, Danzig is fucking great, even if he thinks completely differently about socioeconomics or whatever than you do. Again,
Well,
if somebody's
Danzig and I are of like mind.
right.
Like that's the thing. Like it's a hard thing to endure, you know?
Yeah. Well, so here's
what you
like,
want to
if
do
you're the type
on
of
top
person,
that, but
if Glenn Danzig came out and said that like women have to stand in the back at my show and minorities aren't allowed in and whatever, I would say like, don't support that guy. That's terrible. I mean, it's his right to say that, but fuck that guy. But he doesn't say anything like that. He votes over here and he makes statements and he says what he says. But that's not the music's none of the music's about that. You know what I mean? Other than Bullet, but
yeah, I think he's a cool dude. I think
yeah.
stirs the turd. I love Danzig.
Yeah, well, it's again punk rock. It's about being oppositional, and I don't want to get into the argument that being conservative now is punk rock because I don't think it is.
Oh,
I don't think
well,
it's
it's
one way
just
or the
like
other. I
it
don't think
is
it
when
comes
you
into the
make it.
equation.
Like, you know what I mean? If everyone wants to be a liberal,
Right.
then you've made it punk to be conservative. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if you want to make it bad to be conservative, you've just made it cool to be conservative.
Yeah.
Like, just don't make it cool. That's all people got to do.
Yeah.
Don't make bad shit cool because people are going to do bad shit. Now, I don't think it's bad to be conservative, but because a lot of people starve that fire of oxygen,
Yeah.
it starts to kind of set off people's alarm. They're like, hey, why am I not allowed to hear this? And that's kind of why punk was so interesting. It's like, why is this in a special section at the record store? Like it's fucking porn, you know? Like, why? Why is this being kept from me? And yeah, you got to watch out and don't. Then people start thinking Screwdriver's a lot cooler than Screwdriver is. Screwdriver ain't cool. But like, and again, everyone thinks like, well, then like Misfits is basically Screwdriver. No. And that's why people need to, there is like.
Exactly. 100%. Or even something like MOD, like Billy Milano. Billy Milano's lyrics are a lot closer to Screwdriver than Danzig's lyrics, but Billy Milano is not doing the same thing as Screwdriver. Billy Milano's making comedy records that sometimes push into political territory. Screwdriver's strictly saying eradicate others. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They exist to bum out, you know, and to confuse angry young children. And you got to believe they didn't fund that. Some asshole that wanted to confuse angry young children funded that, you know, like it's a scary world. Yeah. So like, why are we being told things? What is it trying to get us to do? And what it's done is it's got us to stop making music or stop charging for music. It's got us to like accept computer-based music. It's got us to accept trash. It's got us to accept dancing instead of like soul. People stopped writing songs at a certain point. Just in pop music used to employ songwriters.
Yeah.
People stopped learning how to write songs because songwriting stopped making money. Like the team that used to write for Babyface, like those guys don't have jobs anymore because now you need 76 people that write a song that's in one chord.
Yeah.
With 6 lyrics.
You have a beat maker, a top line writer. That's the kind of stuff that I'm like, what, a top line writer? There's one person that just writes the hook now. There's a hook and this guy writes it and then somebody else writes the rest of the song. Like that's kind of
we got to make like John Connor rock. We got to like make rock that just like keeps the flames from the temple, you know, and it's not going to be appreciated. But I mean, yours will. Mine just goes out and languishes in the universe, gets awesome record deals with HorrorShock Records.
We should probably start to wrap this up at this point. I think we're a solid 2 hours in.
Wrap
Speaking
it
on
up.
that, speaking on all of that, Shockwaves Volume 2 is out now on HorrorShock. It's online everywhere. Spellgrinder opens the show with the theme song that they did not write for the album, but it felt like it was written for that compilation. The Lollipop Kids, who didn't talk much today because the old men were just yapping. But
Forgive
the
me.
Lollipop Kids, their first song is on there. And we are so proud to have, I approached Spellgrinder a few months back about like, hey, you guys should be on HorrorShock. Spooky was like, we've got a good thing going. We've got this vinyl on our own. We're already doing all of this good stuff. But because we have some shared interests and respect for each other, we're very, very proud to have the CD on our website of, damn it, I just lost it, Vampire Planet. And it's a fantastic album. Get the vinyl straight from the band. If you want a CD for your car, get it from us, horrorshock.bigcartel.com. And,
Sounds huge.
all of the bands that we've got on the label are doing big stuff in 2025. We're promoting all kinds of stuff. We're doing all kinds of fun stuff. The label roster is always growing and shrinking and growing and shrinking, as all labels do. And we're really hoping to just try and do something that's not typical. I've been doing this for a long time, so it'd be easy to just shift into typicality. But I don't want to do that. I want to curate stuff that I really think deserves a place in the conversation. Horror music is not all Frisch's big boys who are in their mom's makeup collection. It's all kinds of stuff. And nor is, just man-oriented horror, shock, rock stuff what this scene's about. There's glam, there's ladies, there's all kinds of things going on, and we want to encompass all of that under one umbrella. But the main thing for us, just like it is for Spellgrinder, the Lollipop Kids, our band, the main thing for the label is real music made by real people with real feelings that we can get behind. And really, I think all of our bands sound like they could exist in any era between the 70s and now. It's kind of a really neat
thing.
I
love it. I love it. So many comps I grew up on, finding so many bands through good comps, just like buying them. They come with Mojo magazine. You go get them at like a festival, blah, 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 blah. It's the highest calling to be on comps. Like, that's what I like. Like, you asking me to be on a comp, like, oh, I love it. I love it. And I'm not an easy guy to work with, so I appreciate your patience.
Oh, you've been fantastic.
Like this is very cool to me. Like, all the bands on here, you guys are all the people that when I was a kid, I was afraid to go up and talk to you guys because you guys were so cool. And blah, 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 blah. And just like the validation I feel being on a dope ass comp with y'all. Like,
we feel the same way having you in there leading the call with that first song, man, for sure. 100%. So we got to do this again. We'll do it again soon. When there's something new coming up, we'll do it. And I didn't go through any of the, like, what serial killer would play guitar for your band or any of that. So
this guy,
Pinhead.
This guy, he's talking shit.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Presley. Does anybody have anything they need to promote? Do you guys want to shout out your stuff or anything?
Let's see. The Lollipop Kids just put out our new single, as we have mentioned already. Listen to it on the Shockwaves comp. Super excited for all the things coming this year for the Lollipop Kids. We have big plans. More to come on that.
Everybody's got social media. Everybody's got web presences. You can Google all of us: Spellgrinder, the Lollipop Kids, the Creepy Crawlers, HorrorShock Records, and all our bands. Let's keep making it a spooky world, man. Spooky planet.
Enter the shock pod at your own risk.
Presented by HorrorShock Media.